Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 1375.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to talk about the market seeing 3 interest rate cuts possible this year. Now, things seem to be changing rather rapidly, and the inflation news was in the right direction. Now, this news is backward-looking news, so it's already old data. And what the market is looking at is data that's forecasting where interest rates are going and where inflation's going. And so what the market is pricing in is the possibility of 3 interest rate cuts this year. That's telling us that employment or inflation may become weaker than expected soon. So here's how the inflation report came out. Inflation fell further in June as lower gas prices combined with other easing price pressures to bring relief for consumers' wallets. The Consumer Price Index, a key inflation gauge, rose 3% in June from a year ago, down from 3.3% in May. The U.S. Labor Department reported. The Consumer Price Index gauges how fast prices are changing across the U.S. economy. It measures everything from fruits and vegetables to haircuts, concert tickets, and household appliances. Some of the things that are still at the top of the list for high inflation are things like juices and drinks up 20.2%, eggs up 10.2%, uncooked beef roasts up 10%, bacon up 8.2%, pork chops up 7.4%. Those are in the food category. Also stubbornly high is motor vehicle insurance, up 19.5%, video discs and other media up 18.3%, admission to sporting events up 15.1%, care of elderly at home up 11.4%, photographic equipment and supplies up 10.1%, and indoor plants and flowers up 9.4%. Perhaps the most encouraging news for consumers is that inflation for household necessities has cooled dramatically. Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics, said the prices for staples, which is food at home, gasoline, new lease rents, they haven't changed for about a year. So people are paying the same for those staples today that they were a year ago. The April inflation reading is down significantly from its 9.1% pandemic-era peak in 2022, which was the highest level since 1981. However, inflation remains above the long-term target, which is 2%. Sarah House and Aubrey George, economists at Wells Fargo Economics, wrote, "We continue to expect inflation to grind lower in the months ahead as input cost pressures ease and more tepid consumer demand makes it harder for businesses to raise prices. However, additional improvements are likely to be slow-going. The U.S. Federal Reserve uses inflation data to help guide its interest rate policy. It raised interest rates to the highest level in 23 years during the pandemic era, pushing up borrowing costs for consumers and businesses in a bid to tame inflation. Last month, Fed officials forecast they'd start cutting rates by the end of 2024. And Zandi said, all indications are inflation has moderated. It's back close to the Fed's target and consistent with a rate cut in September. Gasoline played a large role in June's inflation pullback. Prices fell 3.8% in June relative to May, according to CPI data. That follows a 3.6% decline in the prior month. Tepid gas demand, increasing supply, and falling oil costs have led to weaker gas prices. There's also been a broad pullback in prices at the grocery store. Food at home prices have risen by just 1.1% since June of 2023, according to CPI data. Housing is the largest component of core CPI and therefore has an outsized impact on inflation readings. It has accounted for nearly 70% of the total 12-month increase in core CPI. Shelter inflation has moderated much slower than expected. One of the big reasons inflation hasn't yet fallen back to target, economists said. The shelter index lags broader trends in the rental market due to how the government constructs it. However, economists expect shelter to throttle back further since inflation for market rents has plummeted. For example, the annual inflation rate for new rental contracts sank to 0.4% in the first quarter of 2024, lower than its pre-pandemic baseline from record highs of around 1.2% just 2 years earlier, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. A surge in new and used car prices a few years ago is likely now fueling high inflation for car insurance and repair, since it generally costs more to insure and repair pricier cars, economists said. It also takes a long time, a year or two or even 3, for higher labor costs in healthcare to translate to CPI readings due to a long contracting process. Higher pandemic-era wages in healthcare are now nudging up medical care CPI and will likely do so over the coming year. The services sector is generally more sensitive to inflationary pressures in the labor market, such as strong wage growth. Record high demand for workers as the pandemic-era economy reopened pushed wage growth to its highest level in decades. The labor market has since cooled and wage growth has declined, though it remains above its pre-pandemic level. Inflationary pressure from the labor market has dissipated quite strongly. So that's the latest on all the inflation numbers, and what the market reaction is telling us there's an 80% chance of a 0.25% interest rate cut by the Fed in September. It also looks to be pricing in 2 additional 0.25% cuts in 2024. So the market is saying they're seeing some weakness coming, and should that pan out, that would be great for real estate and for stocks, and also for cryptocurrencies and precious metals. So we'll continue to monitor the situation and report back to you. If you haven't yet subscribed to Be Wealthy and Smart, hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified as soon as new podcasts are available. And all of my podcasts are on my website at lindapjones.com/podcasts. And while you're there, sign up for my weekly newsletter for more wealth tips for your financial freedom. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.